Watch what happens to this famous YouTuber after he mocks God.
You need a therapist because Jesus isn't quite doing it for you. I just am definitely questioning why we have to perpetuate a belief that is silly. Because I'll be honest with you, bro. Jesus Christ. I defamed Jesus and God, and I felt his wrath. The following 3 weeks have been the hardest period of my life. Started off in Qatar. I got violent food poison.
Camera taken away at the airport.
Get to my hotel. You know, it's just little things here and there. Things are showing up. We misscheduled. Next day got alcohol poisoning. Our luggage was delayed, so we had no clothes to get to our events. Qatar was the first time I felt the wrath of God.
And if you think he's the only one that has mocked God and faced God's wrath, you'd be very mistaken. Take a look at this. Here is a list of people who have faced more severe consequences as a result of their God mockery. Stay tuned, for the last one on this list is the most shocking. First, this is Tancredo Neves, a former elected president of Brazil. It is reported that during his campaign, he said that if he got 500,000 votes from his party, not even God would remove him from the presidency. He did get the votes to become the president, but here is the shocking thing that happened to him. He got sick a day before he was sworn in as president and died soon after. Here's another example. Do you remember the Titanic?
Behind me is Thomas Andrews, an Irish businessman as well as a shipbuilder. This naval architect was in charge of the plans for one of the most famous ships in history, the RMS Titanic. Thomas was extremely confident in the design of his ship and said that it was unsinkable. This is the point where he mocked God, saying, "Not even God himself can sink this ship." Thomas was of course on the Titanic during its maiden voyage, and as we all know, on April 14th, 1912, the Titanic struck an iceberg and sank. Thomas, along with 1,500 other passengers on this day, passed away. Thomas's body was never recovered. In at number 2, most people probably have heard of John Lennon. John Lennon was a member of one of the most famous bands ever, the Beatles. And some years ago, during an interview with American Magazine, John Lennon said, "Christianity will end. It will disappear." I do not have to argue about that, I am certain. Jesus was okay, but his subjects were too simple. Today, we are more famous than him. And as we all know, John Lennon's life was taken by a crazed fan. In fact, in this photo right here, that's the guy that took his life, the one that's looking all creepy.
This other example is very interesting. This right here is Deontay Wilder, a boxing champion. On one occasion, he was to be in a boxing match against Tyson Fury, who is a real man of God. He ended up mocking God in their pre-match interview and later lived to regret it. Watch.
Jesus Christ is my saviour, and I don't believe in all spirits and alter egos. And even mentioning stuff like that on TV, you're getting it. And honestly,
that's the difference.
If God is with
between
me,
and you.
nobody can be against me. And if you're entering spirits and stuff into your body, you can't win. You've already lost. I don't want anything that spirits that you claim. I don't want.
It's going to be your God against my God. It's going to be your God against my God.
You can't
no man on earth will ever beat me, Tyson.
Before destruction, the heart of man is haughty.
And win the first couple rounds.
A right hand, down goes Wilder!
Wilder!
Down goes Wilder! He's knocked down! Oh my goodness! 7, 8! Of Deontay Wilder. Wow.
Fury, like I told him, he had pillows as fists.
Wilder's legs are not underneath him! Wilder is in huge trouble! No knockdown! No knockdown!
He's got to get out of this round, right? He bought himself some time right there.
Something about the legs of Deontay Wilder isn't working. Wilder is exhausted. Fury, down goes Wilder again for the second time in the fight.
Badly, they are stitching him up, and they will immediately take him to the hospital for a neurological test and to make sure that he is okay after that brutal beatdown he suffered at the hands of Tyson Fury.
This other story right here is the most shocking. Reportedly in Campinas, Brazil, a group of friends drunk went to pick up a friend. The mother accompanied her to the car and was so worried about the drunkenness of her friends, and she said to the daughter, holding her hand, who was reportedly already seated in the car, she said this, "My daughter, go with God, and may He protect you." The daughter responded, "Only if God travels in the trunk, cause inside here it is already full." Hours later, the news came that they had been involved in a fatal accident and everyone had died. The car they were traveling in could not even be recognized as what type of car it had been, but surprisingly, the trunk was intact. The police said there is no way the trunk could have remained intact. To their surprise, inside the trunk was a crate of eggs and none of them broke. That right there is wild. I mean, how prideful and ignorant do you have to be to disrespect the one who gives you your daily breath, the one who causes the food that you eat to grow, the one who, as described by Jesus, even has the hairs of your head numbered? That's why when I see people mocking God, I usually think, do these people really think through what they're doing, or do they just utter careless words? I want you to listen to this story in the Bible of this foolish king who taught himself as God. This is the king of Tyre in Ezekiel 28. This is what the word says. "The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, say to the ruler of Tyre, this is what the sovereign Lord says. In the pride of your heart you say, I am a god. I sit on the throne of a god in the heart of the seas. But you are a mere mortal and not a god, though you think you are as wise as God." Want to know what happened to this arrogant, prideful king? God dashed him to pieces. He destroyed his pride and brought him foreigners who killed him and destroyed him. The prideful king died a very shameful and a violent death. And the word of the Lord says this about him in verse 9. "Will you then say, I am a god in the presence of those who kill you? You will be but a mere mortal, not a god, in the hands of those who slay you." See what I'm talking about? The issue right here is pride. These days, people blaspheme God shamelessly. They think they got it all. They sold the holy name of God in dirt. They use His holy name as a cuss word. They shake fists against Him as if to want to start a fight against a very powerful, omnipotent God. Sinful man thinks that he has it all when he abandons true fulfillment from God as he turns to his fallen self. Isn't it crazy that people here on the earth, they fear human authorities? They fear that evil person that is mentioned on TV. They fear going to prison. They fear the FBI. They fear their supposed enemies. But when it comes to God, some people treat Him as if He's nothing. Jesus, however, gives us a new perspective on the fear of God in the Gospels, and this is from Luke chapter 12 verse 4 to 5. He says this, "I tell you, my friends, do not be afraid of those who can kill the body, and after that can do nothing more. But I will show you whom you should fear. Fear Him who, after your body has been killed, has the authority to throw you into hell. Yes, I tell you, fear Him." We as human beings, there's one day that is coming when humanity will really see God for who He is. They will see God as the powerful being that He is. They will see God in His glory, and those people who live their entire lives openly rejecting, scoffing at His word, mocking Him, they will wish they would have never spoken those evil words against a holy God. That's why we as human beings, we should never see ourselves as powerful apart from God. If we are being honest, and I'm referring to the entire human race here, both the believer and the unbeliever, if we're being honest, in all honesty, we as human beings, we are broken, we are bankrupt, we are nothing without God. See, God is the one that made all things. He says in His word that it is Him that made the entire earth. The earth in its beauty and vastness, especially if you stand in space and behold the magnificent glory that God has given the earth. God made it. He made the earth and everything in it. In fact, there's a verse in the Bible that says that the earth belongs to the Lord and everything it contains. God is the one that made mankind and placed mankind on the earth. He stretched out the heavens with His own hands. He Himself, He holds everything, both visible and invisible, by the power of His word. Wow. Here's an honest question. Why is it in the Bible you will never find it written that we as human beings, we are supposed to figure out life by our own selves? I've never seen a verse where God says you can do this by your own strength. I've never seen a verse in the Bible where God says human beings, you can do all these things. You are strong apart from me. God never says that. In fact, it is written over and over again that we should trust in God with all our hearts. Jesus even says in the Gospels that apart from Him, we can do nothing. Apart from Him, we can do absolutely nothing. And the day sinful man realizes this is the day that he will find life. That is why it is written in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 16 verse 25, and this is Jesus speaking. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. See it yet? As I just said, apart from God, we are nothing. The day sinful man will decide to humble himself before God, saying, God, I am nothing without you. And that day he decides to completely rely on God, surrendering himself fully to Him. That is the day that sinful man will find life. See, if we run away from God, if we do evil things that separate us from Him, if we curse Him, we will lose our lives. And by that I mean we'll be separated from the source of life because we have chosen out of our own free will to turn our backs against the only hope that we have.
So, when God wanted to create fish, He spoke to the sea. When God wanted to create trees, He spoke to the earth. But when God wanted to create man, He turned to Himself. So God said, let us make man in our image and likeness. Notice, if you take a fish out of the water, it will die. And when you remove a tree from the ground, it also dies. Similarly, when man disconnects from God, he dies. God is our natural environment. We were created to live in His presence. We have to be connected with Him because only with Him life exists. Remember that water without fish is still water, but fish without water is nothing. The soil without the tree is still soil, but the tree without soil is nothing. God without man is still God, but man without God is nothing. Let us stay connected with God.